Russia breaking news, Erdogan claims that Putin has agreed to extend the contract for the export of Ukrainian grain. The renewal of a crucial agreement concerning the export of Ukrainian grain through the Black Sea is a major development amid the worsening global food crisis. Earlier today, The Guardian reported that Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had shared the news. A crucial pact in the wake of the food crisis. During a press conference, Erdogan mentioned that he and Putin had discussed the critical importance of keeping this contract in place, especially in light of the growing international food shortage. The pact will end on Monday, having been signed 5 months after Russia's invasion of Ukraine began. The renewal of this crucial agreement has been in doubt, however, as Putin has repeatedly stated his reluctance to do so because of sanctions against Russian exports. Erdogan told reporters that he was hopeful that the impasse would be resolved after he and Putin had reached an agreement on the extension of the Black Sea grain corridor in August. The need for a middle ground. To emphasize his confidence in a positive outcome, Erdogan said, "With this letter, we will ensure the expansion of the grain corridor with our joint efforts and the efforts of Russia." His remarks, which indicate an openness to joint action and compromise, have the potential to significantly contribute to international efforts to alleviate the current food crisis. Putin, in contrast to Erdogan's optimism, voiced his displeasure on Thursday, saying that Moscow's requirements for the agreement's functioning have not yet been met. "I want to emphasize that nothing was done, nothing at all," he was quoted as saying by AFP. "No one else is involved. We have a few more days to deliberate, so we will." A safety net in a time of crisis. The Black Sea grain corridor. Turkey's President Erdogan brokered a deal that has allowed Ukraine to transport more than 32 million tons of grain through the Black Sea without interference from Russian naval vessels. Given the global nature of the current food crisis, the extension of this agreement is crucial not only for Russia and Ukraine. Therefore, the perseverance of the Black Sea grain corridor represents resilience in the face of adversity. It exemplifies the global community's ability to put humanitarian concerns ahead of petty economic and political rivalries. A summit between South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev resulted in Yoon Suk-yeol's promise to expand the scale of South Korea's humanitarian and non-lethal military assistance to Ukraine. Seoul will expand the scale of supplies from last year, when we provided materials such as helmets and bulletproof vests, he said at a press briefing following the meeting between the two leaders. During his unannounced trip to Ukraine, Yoon stopped by the city of Bucha. He also announced an increase in humanitarian aid, from $100 million in 2022 to $150 million in 2023. India's representative to the G20 has said that the G20 lacks the authority to mediate a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine, and that such efforts would be more effectively pursued by the United Nations and through bilateral negotiations. "Our view is that G20 is an economic forum, not a forum to discuss security issues," Amitabh Kant, India's Sherpa, told Reuters. Kant added, referring to a G20 summit held on the Indonesian island of Bali in November, however, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi said during Bali, "This is not an era of war, but an era of dialogue and diplomacy." The leaders of the G20 countries each have their own Sherpa, who acts as their personal representative. In the months leading up to the annual G20 summit, the representatives take part in a series of meetings and negotiations known as the Sherpa track.